Hey, it's Alexander Creek, astrologer and intuitive. Welcome to this video on the full moon in Leo and some of the astrology surrounding it leading up to the solar eclipse in Aquarius in mid-February. So we're going to be talking about the astrology of the full moon in Leo, the stuff going on in the collective, how it might show up in your personal life, as well as horoscopes for the rising signs. And as always, everything is timestamped in the video or in the show notes as well. So also, if I seem a little tired, that's because I'm re-recording this because I recorded this podcast already and didn't realize something happened to the camera and it did not turn on. So I'm pissed. And my horoscopes for the rising signs, I'm leaving it the way it is. My face is not going to show up on camera. It's just going to be like a screen share of the chart and my voice talking over it. So you'll get my face for this part if you're watching the YouTube channel. And of course, if you listen to the podcast, it doesn't matter because it's just audio anyways. Special hello to those of you listening to the audio version of the podcast. I'm also wanting to take a second and be like, hey, I am officially starting my podcast for the year. I just needed a little time off, more time off than I thought. I had a lot of year-ahead readings, which was awesome. Holiday time was super busy for me and it made my heart really full, but I was also just tired. So ready to get back in the saddle and talk to you on YouTube and on my podcast. So and again, if you want to work with me as a psychic medium or as an astrologer, it's dogstaroracle.com, dogstaroracle.com. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Let me know how you're doing below. How was your holidays? And also how you're doing right now in this really challenging time. If you're in the United States and also in the world, there's just a lot going on. And that you have subscribed and that you have notifications turned on. So let's talk about the general energy around this full moon. So first off, let's talk a little bit about the astrology that is happening, that was happening kind of prior to this full moon. So I would normally kind of share my screen and kind of show you what I'm looking at, but just because I fear that the same thing's going to happen to me, where it's going to stop recording or look all weird, you're just going to have to look at my face while I do this. Um, so we have moved. So Aquarius season is interesting. And actually even and Capricorn season was interesting as well. Because we had this like double Venus Mars cazimi going on during Capricorn season, in which Venus and Mars both cross through the heart of the sun, kind of beginning these new cycles, planting a seed. Mars particular, there was a Mars cazimi. What day was that? Forget exactly when, but it was really a lot through like that tail end of, forget exactly when, it was later in Capricorn season. But to be frank, it was happening near the murder of Renee Good. So a lot of you in the United States are aware that we're going through a really, really hard time right now, with literal state-sanctioned violence against people, especially for people being kidnapped off the streets by masked ICE agents without any kind of due process, sent God knows where. This is happening to all the American citizens and undocumented people, So, so there was a Mars Kazemi around when Renee Good was murdered on the streets of Minneapolis. And Mars was crossing through the heart of the sun at that point. And that I was looking at as like, hey, this feels like a tipping point. I made a short about it, a TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube short, I believe. And I was talking about how that period of time was like, this is a tipping point. This is major. Something significant is happening because people really fought back. Cut to several days later, and we are now in Aquarius season. It's January 23rd. There's a huge, like statewide general strike in Minnesota and in Minneapolis, against ICE and, what they're doing to American citizens and also undocumented people, and just the government overreach and tyranny that has been occurring, that really has been doubled down in this Aquarius season. And we also have someone named Alex Preddy that was gunned down on the streets or during a protest in Minneapolis, where he was looking out for a woman who was being harassed by ICE. He was an ICU nurse, had a firearm, but did not touch it the entire time. It was murder. that was during a Sun-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius. So it's like we move from this Mars cazimi in Capricorn, where there's the seeding of collective action almost, and also a focus on kind of going back, like talking about that Mars cazimi. I saw that as a tipping point, and it felt like strategy. There's a seed being planted of strategy and action and like pushing back was my feeling. A couple of days later, we get into Aquarius season and we have the Sun Pluto conjunction. So if you recall, under Donald Trump's inauguration, when a president is inaugurated or when a leader comes into power, like when they formally come into power, we look at the chart for that moment. And under Donald Trump's inauguration for 2025, the Sun was conjunct Pluto, and it was a pretty like exact conjunction, and that is associated with authoritarian actions, control, power, vast resources, government tyranny, essentially, and that alignment was repeating around the time that Alex Preddy was murdered as well. And so the Sun was in a conjunction with Pluto, kind of reigniting those themes of government overreach, of fascism, tyranny, all that stuff that I've been talking about. And this time, Mars, planet of action, passion, but also of violence, has joined all of these sort of Aquarius planets. And, sparking these themes of, yes, definitely collective action, the people. Aquarius is a sign of the people. This is like fighting back. This is collective action, demonstration, people being in the streets protesting. But also because Mars has joined the party, it was applying to Pluto and the Sun. And Mars-Pluto combination can talk about extremes connected to violence as well, frankly. So we're seeing a lot of these really scary themes playing out. And I just wanted to give some astrological context, not because of, hey, here's why this innocent person was murdered, but just looking at the stars and the planets and that alignment can tell us literally what is going on. So it's sort of like it's replaying some of the themes present during inauguration and what Donald Trump was promising he was going to do, and these things actually coming to fruition, essentially. So that is part of why Aquarius season is so intense, and there's this collective action and collective outrage. And I mean, honestly, if you have an entity, even like the NRA, tweeting and talking about, hey, this is messed up, like talking about Second Amendment rights. And then not to mention as well, all the other people that have been murdered by ICE in 2026. We had Keith Porter, as well as I think like 6 or 7 other people murdered in ICE custody. So it doesn't matter who you are at this point. It's like, hey, we have got to stop this, So I just want to talk about that because that's on the air, and I can't talk about the general astrology without mentioning all of that. So not to start off with a really severe note, but we're not messing around today. So also this Aquarius season, it's interesting because it's also, we're going to have an eclipse in this sign, solar eclipse in Aquarius coming up at the end of the month. But we'll talk about that kind of more of the next video. And I'll give you plenty of time. I'll have that out so we have plenty of time to talk about what those eclipses mean. But it really is talking about the will of the people versus the will of very few leaders who are consolidating power. I do think this is a year that leaders could fall, and that the paradigm of the world as we know it, I think, is shifting greatly. 2026 is home to some very extreme shifts, shifts that we've kind of been hinting at for a long time. 2025 was sort of a preview, sort of a transitional year in which a lot of the outer planets shifted signs, but kind of went back retrograded back into a sign. Uranus into Gemini, retrograding back into Taurus. Saturn going to Aries, retrograding back into Pisces. Same with Neptune. And so, but all these outer planets are shifting into these signs, and they're going to be in these signs for a long period of time. So, and that's happening this year in 2026, especially in the beginning part of 2026, and also especially in this month in February. So February is home to a solar eclipse in Aquarius. Is also about Saturn going into Aries. We have a Saturn-Neptune conjunction as well. If you want to know more about these various topics, I did a podcast on the astrology of 2026 with William Holloway and Clarissa Dolphin. If you Google orbitals astrology, it'll come up on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We talked about it then. Um, kind of giving an overview of this astrology. And of course, I'll be talking about it all year as well. And we'll be talking more about the Saturn and Aries and Saturn Neptune conjunction, which are major shifts coming up mid-month. I'll be talking about that in my solar eclipse video. So just keep an eye out for that. So let's talk about this full moon in Leo. Since I'm just, this lighthearted little podcast you're doing today, let's talk about this full moon in Leo coming up on the 1st of February. It's actually going to be the first thing that we talk about. Well, I lied. I just talked about a whole bunch of other stuff, but the first thing on my outline. So this full moon in Leo is happening at 13 degrees of Leo, is going to be happening early. Actually, forget exactly what time now. Let's look, shall we? What time is this shit happening? About 3 p.m. Mountain Time on February 1st, which is a Sunday. So full moon happening in Leo. It's happening opposite all of these Aquarius planets. So this full moon is kind of straightforward in a way because it's not making a ton of aspects beyond these oppositions to everything in Aquarius. And so first of all, let's mention kind of what's happening a little bit before this moon goes exactly full. So from the moment it enters Leo, so like later in the day on January 31st, when it goes into Leo, it's going to head into an opposition with Mars and Pluto first, reigniting this very kind of explosive energy about extreme reactions to things like fighting against something very hard, or themes of passionately, obsessively pursuing something on a mundane level. The early part of this full moon could look like I'm hitting the gym really hard, or I'm attacking my to-do list really hard. It could also be about fighting against something, protesting something. Two sides kind of really going at it is sort of what it feels like. Under this full moon, I really do feel like if you are going to go to a protest or some sort of demonstration or take action or something, please be careful and please be safe, because the moon opposing Pluto and Mars reactivates kind of these more violent signatures, to be quite frank. So you'll really want to be careful. But also, even in one's personal life, this could be about approaching conflict, having to approach conflict constructively, or thinking about what you are wanting to fight against, like in your life, or what you're wanting to passionately pursue. Like it's just like a really kind of intense, focused energy, but can also be very kind of conflict heavy. So it's going to oppose Pluto first, and then it's going to oppose Mars. It's going to oppose Mars kind of early in the morning. February 1st, like 5 a.m. would be that Mars moon opposition is when that goes exact. But the whole time, that whole beginning chunk of that full moon, like January 31st on, is when we're going to kind of feel those power conflict kind of signatures. And then so it goes full at 13 degrees about 3 p.m. that Sunday. It's a loud full moon. Leo, it's passionately sharing our opinions, using our voice, being very loud. This is also a moment, I think, of people just really courageously sharing their truth. Like, this is what I think. This is on my heart. I am passionately speaking from a authentic place. Speaking from my heart. Leo is associated with the heart. Speaking up for one's principles. A full moon is always an opposition between the sun and the moon. And so the moon is in Leo, and Leo is ruled by the sun. So it really does kind of feel like these two opposing sides. And then also everything coming back to the sun in Aquarius, which is about humanity, about the people, about collective action, right versus wrong, principles, idea, intellect. So to me, it's just very straightforward. It feels like the people, collective action, humanitarian humanity. What does it mean to be a human being in this time? And so we have this passionate full moon. And also it feels like a very focused full moon as well. It's in Leo, Sun is in Aquarius. These are all fixed signs. These are not planets or signs that are going to kind of meander or be flaky. It's like, hey, we're deciding upon a plan of action, get out of our way. It's like either work with us or get out of the way is sort of what it feels like. So we're really going to be sharing what's on our hearts passionately during this full moon. And it does feel like, on a personal level too, the next planet that the moon is going to move toward after this full moon is actually Venus. So there is something about on a personal level, this could be about like having to approach conflict, like speaking about like, hey, I don't fucking like that when you do this. Don't, do this annoying thing. But then when it's opposing Venus, it's like, I really want to find a way to get along or to establish harmony, to kind of build a bridge and some kind of connection. This is also in the collective. This is talking about equality versus inequality, especially because it's Venus in Aquarius. So there's like a relationship, harmony, focused energy, or rather like there's some discord and conflict and then trying to build bridges with this full moon too. It's not the most harmonious because it is loudly kind of making its feelings very clear, but then there is a focus after this full moon goes exactly full on talking and building community and building relationships, especially because there is a feeling of like, if something is wrong personally, like in your personal life, or you need to fix something, there's a emphasis on communication, because Venus will be conjunct Mercury during this full moon as well. And that is talking, sharing, communicating, connecting. I can't fix a problem if I didn't know there was a problem kind of energy. So it's like you don't want to burn all your bridges under this full moon. You might feel tempted to because there's so much fire and passion and anger under this full moon. But there's also like needing to talk about it, to understand, to see the other person's point of view that comes in during this full moon as well. So, okay. And on a macro level, the part of the chart that has Leo for you, we're going to have eclipses there later this year. And its opposite house, Aquarius, is going to have an eclipse later this month. Those parts of your charts, we're going to be experiencing some kind of bigger beginnings and bigger endings with those parts of our charts too. So these Leo themes that we might be experiencing in your personal life might become more significant later on in the year. So that is pretty much that full moon. I also got to mention too, all this Aquarius stuff, it is ruled by Saturn in Pisces, because Aquarius traditionally is ruled by the planet Saturn. Saturn is right on the edge of going into Aries, where it's going to move into Aries mid-February and be there for the next 2.5 years. So this full moon is sort of end of one era going into another. It's a transition full moon as well. I also think on another kind of macro collective level, this could be calls for leaders to resign, or those calls are becoming increasingly louder, including, who, the orange one, he's a Leo rising. But Leo having to do with the king, and the solar eclipse in Aquarius having to do with, I think, fall, more fall of leaders and things like that this year. It's gonna be a year for the books, I think. So, okay. Okay, let's talk about Neptune and Aries. So Neptune has gone into Aries a couple of days ago. I'm recording this on the 27th of January. Neptune went into Aries a couple days before. It's going to be there until 2038, believe it or not. Neptune is the planet of what we idealize as a collective zeitgeist, planet of higher consciousness. So it's been in Pisces since 2011, 2012, one of those two. And things like manifestation, spiritual cult leaders, everyone getting really into astrology too, and like signs, the zodiac and everything. It's all very Pisces, I think. But also kind of spiritual bypassing too, of like, oh, using astrology as an excuse to like not fix your life. you know Neptune and Aries will be interesting because we start to idealize the spiritual warrior or taking action. Catherine Urban brought up some stuff in her video about Neptune and Aries representing like a military look or military chic, or weaponry, or defending yourself, like self-defense, like something that is going to become more popular, and just like taking a stand, essentially. So I would do two things if you want to know more about this. I have two episodes about this on my podcast. One was a February 18th episode called Weathering the Storm. Part of that is about Neptune and Aries, so check that out. And then I also did a March 21st episode. I think it was a solar eclipse episode. And I talked about Neptune and Aries in your horoscope and what that means for you for your rising sign. So check those out if you want more information on Neptune and Aries. And then, of course, I think Catherine Urban actually has a whole class or talk on it as well. There's a lot of resources about it. Okay, now what's going on? 1 second. Okay, so February 4th, Uranus will station direct. Uranus is a planet of the revolution, freedom, the awakening, like awakening. And Uranus very much has, I think, to do with like revolutionary kind of energy. So it's stationing direct on February 4th, I think is significant. Outer planets spend a lot of time retrograde, but it's a station. When they station direct and when they station retrograde, those around those dates, and their energy is just very loud. So it's sort of like, yeah, people are not going to be people are not going to be told what to do. Especially there's just this increasing, all of these things, just increasing momentum of like, we're not going to be told what to do. We're going to govern ourselves. So, themes of revolution and freedom, where you need more freedom in your life, where you're really ready to make a change, especially connected to that Taurus house in your chart, because Uranus is stationing direct at the later degrees of Taurus, especially if you have placements around 27 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. You'll really personally feel this energy, but we're going to feel it more in the collectives, generally speaking. A few days later, Venus, still in Aquarius, will be squaring Uranus around February 7th, February 8th. That is, we might see unconventional expressions of beauty in art in the collective, themes about unconventional relationships, maybe some relationships breaking up, maybe, I'm a 62-year-old farmer and I'm marrying, I don't know, I have no idea where that example is going, but just unique, weird, eccentric relationship stories in media and the collective playing out at that time, or like robot art, futuristic, unconventional makeup looks or something like that. Because it's Venus in Aquarius, so that could be like more like cyberpunky kind of vibes. But just keep an eye out for that. But also, if you have placements that are on that 27-degree mark, there's something around seeking excitement or something different connected to relationships and expressions of beauty. February 6th, excuse me, February 6th, we're going to coming back in time a little bit. Mercury goes into Pisces. Mercury is communication, reasoning, how you analyze things, how you perceive things. And Mercury going to Pisces is important because it's an important part of the eclipse story coming up, because we have a lunar eclipse in Virgo coming up on March 3rd that is ruled by Mercury. And we have a Mercury retrograde coming up as well. So Mercury will go retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces on February 26th. So the Pisces part of your chart, Mercury is going to be spending a lot of time here. And in general, Mercury is considered to be fallen and in detriment in Pisces. And that is because Mercury is the planet of, again, reasoning, intellect, fact, figures, logistics. Mercury is like, okay, 2 + 2 = 4, right? Let's do a spreadsheet about it. That's how it operates ideally. In Pisces, it knows 2 + 2 = 4, but it's going to explain it to you with a poem or a song, or give you a tarot card reading about the meaning of 2 + 2 = 4, which is why Mercury is considered to have a more challenged time in the sign of Pisces. Mercury in Pisces, this time from February 6th all the way through, I think April. March is going to Mercury is going to be Mercury is going to be in Pisces. It's a good time for dream work, for creative and spiritual work, for journaling, for connecting with your spirit, for to connecting to just like seeing things from a different point of view, or connecting to things in a more soulful, creative way. Really good time for that. And, like connecting with your guides, meditation, all of these things. Mercury in Pisces is going to be really, really good for. Retrograde will be challenging, connected to logistics, plans, travel, things like that. Part of it's because Mercury, part of it's like really about like liminal dreamy space rather than being like 3D reality. We'll kind of get to that in my next video. But just keep that in mind. Mercury is going to be conjunct the North Node on the 12th of February. The North Node, things drawn into the North Node, we get kind of obsessed with them. We want more of them. There's just more and more and more. So around February 12th, I think we might feel the need to go inward, to connect to meditation, spiritual work, dream work, getting into dreamland to understand. It's going to be really an interesting time for that. February 10th, Venus, planet of love, beauty, aesthetics, relationships, goes into Pisces. It's going to be there till around March 7th. Venus is in her highest expression in Pisces, one of her highest expressions is in her exaltation in Pisces. This is a dreamy, mystical, compassionate version of Venus. And also this Venus in Pisces transit is, I think, really nice because she's not going to see either of the malefics for the most part. She's not going to be challenged by Mars, the planet of conflict and war. She's not going to share any space really with Saturn, the planet of limitations and seriousness and commitment. She is free. She's generally free, this Venus and Pisces cycle, to build bridges, to connect, to help people, to connect to beautiful things, to connect to people's souls, so wherever you have Pisces in your chart, Venus is going to move in there on February 10th and really help to build bridges, to connect to more unconditional love, to help you see more beauty, bring more beauty into your life. And yeah, because she has been like Saturn, that planet of limitations, challenges, seriousness, has been in Pisces since 2023. So every time she's gone into Pisces, she's had to deal with Saturn. And she doesn't have to, she deals with Saturn for a little bit, but there's really no interaction with either malefics during her time in Pisces. So that, I think, is really, really positive for the part of your chart that is, for the part of your chart that has Pisces. I talk about that more in your sign horoscope. And then Saturn goes into Aries February 14th. I'm going to talk about that on the solar eclipse podcast. So, all right. So let's do your horoscope for your rising sign. I explain this again in the next clip, but you don't see my face. So, excuse me. So, if you know your birth time, go calculate your rising sign. Horoscopes are made for the rising sign. Again, I don't know your life or your chart, so I can only get so specific on these videos. You kind of have to read between the lines, interpret things for yourself, take what resonates, leave the rest. If you don't have an accurate birth time, you can listen to your sun or your moon. You can also listen to both your rising sign and your sun or your moon, kind of bring them together, but I put more emphasis on the rising. Okay, so let me know how you're feeling in the comments, how you resonate with this information, how you're feeling under this energy, and sending love to everybody. And enjoy the horoscope part again. My face is not present if you're listening on YouTube. And again, you can just jump to the correct rising sign forecast with the timestamps in the comments section on YouTube, or you can jump to the show notes if you're listening to the audio version. So have a good full moon. Use your voice passionately, and I'll talk to you all soon. Okay, Aries rising. Let's see. So, what is occurring in your 5th house? Something culminating, peaking, reaching culmination, connected to children, pregnancy, romance or sexual relationships, something involving creative projects, hobbies, interests, or something involving a games, competition, or something fun. Well, it's supposed to be fun. This, this lunation, I think, is a bit charged. So, what do I want to talk about here? Right now your 11th house is pretty packed with all these planets in Aquarius. So maybe there's themes of power or control, or just a lot of energy and activity connected to groups of friends, connected to your wider communities, groups or clubs that you belong to. Maybe there's just a tremendous amount of activity there. You're gonna have a really potent solar eclipse in that part of your chart as well. So you might really be considering kind of like what your goals, hopes, and wishes for the future are, under this energy. But I feel like under this full moon, I might try to blow off a little steam, essentially, because it might be connecting you back to like your creative projects or things that are fun for you, or just like connecting with your heart, like something like that, or having fun, connecting to your heart, connecting to your joy in the face of maybe some pretty and like just some like really intense things going on in your life, essentially. I also wanted to mention Venus going into Pisces as well. Venus will be going into Pisces, as I mentioned. I forgot what day that is. February 10th. So like a ways after this full moon. But February is going to, excuse me, Venus will be going um, into your 12th house on February 10th, where she'll remain for a little less than a month. Excuse me. And that transit of Venus and Pisces, like it might be connecting to your lover or your relationship, more kind of connected to like more private or secluded spaces. It might be that you find creativity or peace connected to solitude, like rest and retreat, or things happening behind closed doors, or like a very kind of spiritual, connected sort of like being able to sort of commune with the goddess essentially in like kind of more private spaces or under more sort of seclusion. It could be, about what that transit is partially is for you. And okay, so let's talk about Taurus rising. Taurus rising, your full moon will be happening in your fourth house. The fourth house is an angular house. It can be felt a little bit more loudly because it is an angular house. The fourth house has to do with home and family, your roots, ancestors, property, real estate, where you come from, your parents and family. So, there simply might be something happening um, connected to your home that you have to deal with. It could be that we're, like, hey, we're getting ready to put our home up for sale, or like, maybe we are finishing some sort of home project or something that this could also be just like a moment of reprieve of like you connecting to home and hearth energy, because career might be particularly intense for you under this Aquarius season, because we have all these planets happening in your career sector, which is the 10th house, which is career, but also public reputation. It's like whatever maybe things that you're kind of dealing with in your life, or all the like, there's just a lot of focus on things that are very public for you essentially. And this full moon on February 1st, I just think will have something to do with home, with your family. This could be a good time to connect to your ancestors and do ancestral and sort of like ancestral magic. Perhaps there's sort of news connected to one or more of your parents. Your fourth house of home and family is also going to get some eclipses later in the year too. So themes connected to home and family are going to be more prominent as we continue through 2026. And also those things might be expanded for you because Jupiter is going to be moving into that part of your chart starting in July of this year. Venus in Pisces, February 10th. That's going to be your 11th house. So sharing, making connections, connecting to old friends, making new ones, networking, um, anything connected to that Venus will be helping you with. That could also be, maybe finding romance with someone in like a social circle, meeting someone online or through an app or something. Because if we're talking about Venus being romance, but really building bridges and connecting and really connecting and having sort of more soulful experiences connected to like your wider friend group, to being helped out by a colleague, to making connections in bigger groups or clubs or organizations or wider community. Venus and Pisces, I think, is going to be assisting you with. And she's going to be in Pisces from March 10th from February 10th through March 7th as well. So, Gemini rising. Gemini rising, the full moon is occurring in your third house. The third house has to do with local community, um, with siblings, your neighborhood, neighbors, as well as correspondence and also communication, and also like trips and like short distance travel. Kind of like how you kind of get from point A to point B, or how you get around. It is also about transportation. So it's a lot of topics to consider when talking about this. I will say it does feel like maybe there's a big focus right now for you on ninth house topics, because we have all these Aquarius planets moving through your ninth house. Ninth house has to do with higher education, with long distance travel, with your beliefs, with political things. spirituality, possibly too. So this full moon could be saying like, okay, like here's what I believe. You could be um, there's something that could be happening connected to like a vehicle or how you maybe get around. There could just be really important or more charged or more meaningful conversations that we're having with the neighbors. That were maybe there is like some sort of event connected to like a sibling's life that's playing out for you under this full moon in Leo. But this might be a very charged time where you're like really sharing your opinions, you're sharing your beliefs, or just having conversations and and kind of sort of connecting to community and like really being out there and like talking to people. However, you're talking to people, whether it is like locally in community or maybe talking more on like a podcast or something or more on social media, there's just a feeling of I'm communicating and I'm talking a lot. The sending letters, sending emails, just feels like that's like more meaningful under this time for whatever reason. So look for those topics to be sort of more charged under the full moon. I'm not saying, oh, it's a full moon in Leo, you might send an email. I can see so like in my comments, like making fun of me for that. But it's just for some reason there's some important conversation or correspondence that were happening or something connected to transportation, travel, to neighbors and community happening for you. Venus will be moving into Pisces as I've stated. Pisces is your 10th house. That is career, public reputation, what you were known for. So it is possible under this Venus in Pisces transit from from February 10th through March 7th that Venus will be really helping you to promote yourself, to make you appeal, positively online or to like the larger community. And to Venus and Pisces, what can help you make you look good to your employer or to your clients or to people that serve or to people that are going to buy from you. And it also could just be a good time to kind of rejuvenate your like social media image or to like rebrand or something. Or simply to just sort of like attract help and some popularity in a career and work setting. In some people's cases, this could also be sleeping with the boss too. So, no judgment there if that is you. So Cancer rising. Cancer rising, the full moon is going to be happening in your second house of money. There's a completion, a culmination, and ending something, or just more of a focus on finances under this full moon around February 1st. With finances, can be having to make an important purchase, or really, because like you're really maybe having a lot of conversations, or there's some stress, or just a lot of emphasis right now on shared resources, like investments, your stocks, your life insurance, your partner's money, student loans, debts. Maybe you're looking at like refinancing. There's just a lot going on in that part of your chart. The eighth house can also sometimes be like psychic baggage, emotional sort of things that we've been dealing with for a long time, buried secrets and trauma and things like that. So it's possible that, that we've sort of been dealing with those things as well, or things that are more hidden to the eye, that are more connected to our psyche. But I do feel like this full moon will kind of bring up more of the financial part of it. I do think that you are going to maybe be experiencing some changes in your finances this year as well with these eclipses. This is a year that if you've never invested before, really focused on saving money, this could be a time when you're going to be focused on doing that. I can see making more money this year with Jupiter moving into your second house of money. Beginning really kind of this summer. So these financial topics we're going to be going through some changes here, kind of coming up this year. I don't want you to be scared of it, but this full moon in Leo might be connected to that larger series of events, essentially. So Venus is also going into Pisces February 10th and will be there until March 7th. Your ninth house is what you believe. It is connected to your politics, your spirituality. It's about travel and education. So this could be about like finding pleasure in connecting with other cultures, cooking from a different cookbook that's like from like another cuisine or culture. This could be literally about travel. It depends on your own circumstances, of course, but if you're traveling during that time, it can definitely help bring more pleasurable experiences. That's talking about connecting with people from different backgrounds. You might really enjoy learning about spirituality or connecting to some sort of educational topic as well under the influence of Venus and Pisces. It's taking you to other lands and just experiencing other ways of life. Whether you're microdosing that kind of in your kitchen or watching videos about other cultures or learning new things, but anything where you're expanding your mind, Venus and Pisces is going to help make that kind of more fun and more pleasurable for you. So Leo rising, this is your time. This is your time to be as loud like about me as I know that you can be. So this full moon is happening in your sign. So this really could feel like a personal completion or culmination, a turning of the chapter. There could be something coming up connected to physical body and health as well, or your vitality and your essence, essentially. So like it could be like I'm ready for like a new wardrobe, to like I need a new haircut, to like hey I'm dealing with something with my physical body also too, because it can just bring physical body health things into the equation and kind of our physical vessel meat suit, because that's partially what the first house is physical body. But I do just feel like you're going to feel like some personal culmination. I do have to say, relationship stuff is very significant for you right now, or there's just simply a lot going on with partnerships and your one-on-one relationships. We have the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Pluto all in your seventh house. Pluto is going to be there for several more years, just FYI. But I feel like there's more action than usual. There's like attempts to connect and be in harmony with people, but also maybe there's conflict, some passion. It just feels like one-on-one relationships are kind of the big theme. So maybe under this full moon, you're kind of considering, okay, what do I need from these relationships? Am I getting enough? Am I bringing enough? How do I balance? It's like you versus your relationships are just really coming up under this full moon. And again, this could be a personal time of shedding, of releasing, of letting go of something, of completing something out. You're going to be going through, I think, some significant changes this year. More opportunities, saying yes to things, opportunities to travel or learn new things, or just simply kind of grab onto whatever life has to offer you. And also, you're going to be going through some significant changes in your relationships as well, because you're going to be having eclipses, really potent new and beginning, really really potent new beginnings and endings connected to you, physical body, your identity, how you approach life, and also your one-on-one relationships. So if you're wondering, is this the year that I finally meet someone? I kind of think probably yes, or those themes are just going to be louder. And I think that you're very much kind of giving main character energy this year. Not that you don't already do as your Leo rising, but that certainly I think is you just got some stuff going on this year. So Venus is going to go into Pisces, which is your 8th house of shared resources. February 10th through March 7th. And that can be good for investing if you need to get a loan, refinance, access other people's capital, get a grant, or apply for student loans or something. It could be good for any of that. It could also mean that your partner's making more money during that time. It also could be good for just like emotional vulnerability. Like this could be time when like talking to a therapist is really helpful. If you're in a relationship, it could be like deep, meaningful, intimate sharing that leads to harmony and leads to more soulful connection between you and a partner. The 8th house is associated with sex somewhat too. Cultures always have this debate and fight. Like, is it the 5th, if this Aries of the 8th? I really don't care. 5th house is traditionally sex. 8th house can be too, but I really just connect it to deep intimacy is sort of what I see under this Venus and Pisces transit for you. And also I would be paying attention to gut feelings and dreams under Venus and Pisces as well, because those can really be louder for you during that transit. So Virgo rising. Virgo rising. And then I'm going to get some water after this. Actually, I'm at some water right now. Virgo rising. Thank you for reminding me to take care of my health and hydrate. So Virgo rising, you've had a lot going on in 2025 and in 2026. But this full moon is in your 12th house. So there's been a lot of emphasis and focus on health for you, maybe on work, on your daily kind of like upkeep and maintenance of physical body or what your work and work routines look like. Maybe a lot going on with pets. Maybe there's some more stress in that area, more emphasis on your, little furry animals, because sixth house can definitely be pets as well. So there's just a lot of focus on the grind, on upkeep of the body, on different things stressing out the body and how to deal with that. And Virgo rising, as we know, you tend to be a little bit more sensitive to health things or things that upset your routine. You're, I think, more of a sensitive sign. And this full moon is in your hidden 12th house. There's maybe just going to be, while we have plenty of tasks to complete, a big to-do list, around the first, under that full moon, a sign to kind of get some rest, a sign to focus on mental and spiritual health and your emotional health. This can be good for releasing or doing, some kind of ritual where you're like releasing or letting go of something, or releasing like psychic baggage, or just releasing like the energetic crud that might be kind of building up in your auric field at this point. Or just kind of focus on getting rest, on getting out of the city and going for a nice hike and being in nature, because 12th house can be rest and solitude and kind of being away from the normal like grind of life. So whether that's in your room chilling and watching Netflix, whether that is being in nature, I think there might be a feeling of like retreating a little bit, even though it's a loud, courageous full moon that might encourage you to have a little fun too. But it's going to be away. Like you're not wanting to deal with regular life shit, basically under this full moon. So I really highly encourage that. Pisces, Venus will be going into your 7th house so Virgo rising. Venus will be going to Pisces, which is your 7th house of relationships, of one-on-one partnerships and alliances. So also enemies. Open. If you have any arch nemesis, they live in your 7th house. So Venus will be going through your 7th house from February 10th through March 7th. And during this time, this is really good for soulful, juicy, romantic connections, possibly takes from something, where it's not quite a relationship to maybe more of a committed thing. This could be a really good time to meet someone if you are single, and really meet someone that you can really connect soulfully with. If you're already in a relationship, it's a really good time to be renewing those relationships, to be connecting in one-on-one spaces. This also can be even helpful like in career things too, like just people, your friends helping you out, your alliance is helping you out, collaborating with people, being with people. And so that I think is gonna be a nice transit for you, frankly. So let's look at Libra rising. Okay, Libra rising. I took a half-hour nap on that bed you see behind me. I'm back. So mama got tired. Okay, so the hell's going on for you? All right. The full moon is going to be happening in your 11th house. So definitely a culmination, some kind of peaking, a completion, just more activity in the friend part of your chart. So friends, wider communities, people that share something in common with or ideals with. Or also it could be that we're focused on or we're completing like some kind of goal or something right now as well, because this is the part of the chart that rules kind of like goals, wishes, and hopes for the future. And I'll say the 5th house part of your chart, around this full moon on February 1st, lot going on there. So 5th house is like children, romance, sex, our creative projects, creativity in general, hobbies. There's like intensity and stress and just generally a lot going on there. Not saying everything there is negative or bad or anything like that, but there just seems to be a big focus in that part of your chart during this full moon. So this full moon like could be really mundane, and it could be like, oh, this is like a night out. This is like where we're connecting with people. This could be some sort of culmination, like a relationship with a friend or some sort of project with a friend or something like that. But it's just kind of activating these two parts of the chart. I will say, friends, community, like friends, your wider communities, colleagues, people that you associate with, or that you have or that you have in common with, as well as your goals and wishes and hopes for the future. That is going to get a lot more juice later in the year when we have these eclipses happening in Leo. Also be mindful that the solar eclipse in Aquarius coming up too is going to be about these fifth house topics. So there's going to be some new beginnings connected to children, pregnancy, romance, or creative projects or romantic relationships coming up later in the month as well. Um, so we'll revisit these topics again for you. But yeah, I just think full moon for you is some sort of completion or culmination connected to a friendship, connected to your social groups. It could just be like that full moon night. You might just be like a networking night, or you make some important connection, or you have some important realization about where you're headed in your life and your goals and things like that. Venus in Pisces, February 10th through March 7th, Venus is going to be moving into Pisces, which is your sixth house. So this can be good for forming or building relationships connected to work. This is like, hey, like linking in with like another coworker. This could be a good time for people that helping you find a job or helping to move up at work or just bring more harmony into the workplace. This could be about also finding a better um, bringing some, like the planet of beauty and connection and pleasure coming into your health sector. Like these sixth house is on a glamorous place. Like this is about upkeep of the body and physical health. So maybe this could be about finding the right health practitioner for you. This could be around meeting people at the gym or something like that. And finding some pleasure in like the monotony of how you take care of yourself, essentially. This could also be good for like, let's say your pets are fighting or something like that. Venus going into your sixth house on February 10th can also be about like maybe building connections in relationships and bringing some harmony into that part of your chart as well. So, Scorpio, the full moon is going to be happening in your career sector. This could be bringing some culmination, some ending we've been thinking about, just more attention to you in your career space. Your day-to-day job, your larger career, maybe you're maybe ready to move on to the next thing. You're kind of thinking about some sort of new phase in your career that could be happening around this time. Or for some reason, just promoting yourself and public reputation stuff is just a little bit more loud around that time. Perhaps there's been a lot kind of going on in the home or within family for you as well. Considering we have Mars moving through this part of your chart, and maybe we have some more projects going on at home. Maybe there's just more stress at home, even while Venus is trying to bring in some pleasure and some grace connected to home things. Like those two things are kind of maybe competing for you right now. Home, where you are living, as well as career themes are going to be louder in 2026 because we're going to be having some changes in those parts of your chart with the upcoming eclipses this year. The eclipse will be in your home sector later this month. And then we'll have some eclipses in your career sector, and Jupiter will be moving into that part of your chart as well in the summertime. Like I see career expanding for you this year, louder career things happening for you this year, possibly changes in home happening for you this year as well. But for right now, this is a quote normal full moon, bringing in some kind of completion or culmination to career themes for you. So Venus will be moving into Pisces February 10th. And I think that's going to be bringing in some more fun for you, more pleasure. This could be a better time for your sex life, for your romantic life from February 10th through March 7th. It's a really good time to be creative, to be artistic, and to not feel like the weight and pressure of Saturn, the planet of responsibility and limitations, who's been in that part of your chart for the last couple of years. It's going to be gone for the most part. A few days into Venus and Pisces transits. Also, just more harmony, pleasure connected to children. It's like, hey, we're getting along with my kids more, or let's say you're an aunt or uncle or something like that. It's like, oh, like the children in my life are just having a little bit more fun. Good time for dating, for new romantic stuff with Venus and Pisces. And just frankly, a good time for creative, fun things. It's a little bit of an escape for you overall with Venus going into Pisces through that chunk of time. So like if you're in a relationship, like do something for like Valentine's Day, or take a little trip or something, or just have some time, have a little pocket of time during that Venus and Pisces transit from the 10th of February through March 7th, where we're doing something maybe like a little bit fun. Aquarius, the full moon for you is your ninth house. So that is a culmination, a completion, a peaking of energy connected to what you believe, your beliefs, your spirituality. Could be connected to higher education as well, connected to spirituality or astrology. Um, so yeah, like we could be finishing up something we could be, Susie, not career related. We could be finishing up like some sort of educational class or program, or perhaps there's just a lot of activity connected to education around this full moon. We could be really drawn to, maybe we have like a meaningful experience with a person from like another culture. Maybe we are really going to be loudly outspoken about our beliefs and what we believe and sharing that with people. The ninth house is also publishing or broadcasting as well. So maybe this is time where we're like thinking about writing a book, or we're like finishing the finishing draft of a book or something like that, or sharing something online that's meaningful. Perhaps you're thinking about like there's like an important moment connected to like your podcast, or your social media channel, or something like that. But we're publishing, we're sharing, we're sharing beliefs, or we're really kind of consumed with educational things and expanding our mind around this full moon. And there's maybe been certainly a lot happening for you, just your general like daily routines of correspondence, of talking with people, of your local community, your neighbors, sharing and connecting with your local spaces. Maybe that's more highly charged for you right now. Maybe there's a lot going on there, simply just because we have all these Aquarius planets piled up in your third house of locality. I will say the education, spirituality, and travel topics are going to get some more juice for you this year with these eclipses coming up later, with these eclipses coming up later this month and also this year. For right now, Venus will be moving into your fourth house on February 10th, and be there through March 7th. I keep saying March 7th, and I'm going to make sure I'm actually right. 1 second. I think I'm right. I am right. Yeah. I just really was like, let me double check. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so Venus, okay, so Sagittarius rising, Venus is going to move into your fourth house of home and family on February 1st. Nope, I lied. Venus is moving into your Venus is moving into that fourth house on February 10th, and it's going to be there through March 7th. So, Venus bringing some pleasure, bringing some harmony, bringing some soulful kind of energy into your home space. So this could be a good time to redecorate, to make your home feel more homey and special. This could be time to, put out some things that are like meaningful to you. Just like to make your home space sweeter and feel more just to feel like like a warmer, more secure, homey place to be, essentially. This could also be a time that you just want to connect to family more. This could also be good for healing or repairing like or healing or repairing familial relationships. This could be time that you might want to start like an ancestral healing practice as well, because Venus is about like bridging that connection. So yeah, things involving home and family, especially making your space more beautiful, is going to be helpful is going to be, I think, good for you during this Venus and Pisces transit. Capricorn rising, this full moon is falling in your eighth house. This could be the completion or something culminating or peaking, or just a lot of activity connected to shared resources, debts, loans, investments, things like that, partners' money. Maybe there's all these Aquarius planets have been in your second house of money. Maybe more of an intense focus around budget, spending, income, getting money, where you're putting that money, where you are spending it, and finances in general. And this full moon is like, hey, where am I putting this money? It could be something about tax time. This is like, hey, I want to reinvest or like put this elsewhere. Maybe you're just sort of loud and outspoken around where the money is going, having, a conversation with a partner, around our joint resources. I'll say your money and your resources, your spending, your income streams, that is subject to some fluctuation this year, or subject to like just some beginnings and endings and changes. This full moon in Leo, I want to say to you, I'm just getting the message like almost it's like we're being mindful of where we're putting our money. Where our money is going to, especially like investments and credit cards and things like that. It's like getting these things in order feels important. This is also a full moon in the eighth house too, can be about emotional or psychic baggage too. So it's like, it can be like, hey, I realize that this trauma comes from this thing that happened to me, or, speaking about something really vulnerable and really intimate can also be part of this transit as well. This also can be just like an event tied to a partner's money or um, something like that, kind of going with like with a partner in their resources or how we kind of share things. Um, so Pisces, so Venus is moving into Pisces for you, February 10th through March 7th. Venus, so that part of your chart is the third house. So that is local things, your community, siblings, extended family. That can be good for like, just like connecting. This can be good. This is good for like connecting and talking to people, frankly, like, neighbors, siblings, extended family, connecting more, like kind of being out in the public, like being in your coffee shop or different third spaces, because third spaces fall in the third house, like parks, coffee shops, libraries. Just like there's just like a little bit more magic in those parts of life for you. This could be a really good time for writing projects or communication projects, or like I'm starting like a diary or like a journal and just doing some like magic in that, and like blogging and and things connected to that, because Venus in Pisces, I think, is also a creative transit as well. This could also be a good time for you to learn something new or take some kind of course or certification or something like that, or really kind of work or something with like creative writing. But that is from February 10th through March 7th. Aquarius rising. This Aquarius rising, this full moon actually falls in the seventh house of partnership. So this is an important full moon for you. Big pile up in your sign. This full moon brings attention to your alliances, your one-on-one relationships, romantic, business, friendship, like the list kind of goes on. So this could bring some important culmination. This could bring an agreement. It could bring also a serious disagreement. It's like, I do not want to proceed with this. Like, I don't like these terms, you know? Is this full moon is like, maybe we have to approach conflict in some way, or there's some kind of disagreement or some separation. But there's also this feeling of wanting to reconcile or come together as well. And I'm not saying that you're going to be experiencing both of those things under this full moon, but this full moon does feel charged with loudly disagreeing or loudly speaking one's truth, being like, hey, this is not okay, like with the full moon opposing Mars, but then it does apply to Venus, which is like, hey, we're going to try to make it work. We're going to try to get along. Full moon feels like we're releasing tension in relationships, like in a loud way, So I would, if this is about your personal relationships, I really would be working on um, constructive conflict resolution as part of this energy. And also, I just feel like you're making your voice very heard somehow. So relationship seems to be the focus here. You are also, this is leading up to a very important month for you, because we have a solar eclipse in your sign a couple weeks later. So themes of identity, of physical body, of personal new beginnings. Like you're about to kind of go into a new chapter. Like I feel like you're, maybe there are events that are going to be playing out of some significance for you in the month of February. Or also it could just be more on an internal level that you're sort of ready to embrace some new beginnings. If you're kind of feeling that pull there, we're going to have eclipses in your sign starting this month, kind of going all year. And be mindful also that Jupiter, if you're be mindful that Jupiter is going to be moving into your seventh house of partnership later on this year as well. So I could see partnership things expanding for you as well. So highly charged full moon for you. Just kind of remember constructive conflict resolution. Not saying that every Aquarius rising is going to have some conflict, but I do feel like that could be a possibility, or simply just like the need to passionately share feelings, passionately tackle some kind of project, get some like fire energy, I just feel like that's going to be playing out for you somehow. Venus will be moving out of your sign and into Pisces on February 10th. And it's going to be there until about March 7th. And that can actually be time, that can be a good time for calling in some extra money and resources for wanting to bring in some extra, like for bringing in some extra money. But also can just be about like spending your money on something like luxurious or something that's like really meaningful to you that feels really special. But definitely if you're like freelance or self-employed or you want like a side hustle, good time to be bringing in some extra cash under that particular transit. She's again, she's not going to be impeded by Mars or Saturn, so definitely like money stuff. I can kind of see like Venus will be helping, um, or trying to help in that category. Um, so yeah, so that's what we got for you, Aquarius. But I just feel like this full moon in this month feels pretty important. Um, Pisces rising. Okay, full moon in your sixth house. So um it's interesting because Aquarius season always might feel a little weird for you because Aquarius is your 12th house. It's a house of rest and solitude, our shadow self, hidden enemies, and that includes kind of our own demons sometimes, but also can be about mental and spiritual healing and rest and solitude. So we just have a pileup of there are a lot of extreme things for you, I feel like, are charged up energy kind of happening maybe in your private life, maybe in your own mind. And maybe we just feel a little bit more hermit like lately. And this full moon is about the brings to a head or brings some kind of culmination or something kind of peaking connected to a work matter, like your work routines, who you work with, a coworker, perhaps there's tensions that kind of come out with a coworker or work situation that we have to sort of like try to resolve peacefully, or that we're sharing our opinion loudly and forcefully, but we sort of have to deal with like maintaining peace, something like that. So it could be like relationships in the workplace. It could be that we're just ending a job, or that we're ending some kind of work project, or we're feeling ready to sort of move on to the next thing. It also could be like um, that maybe that there is some sort of clarity that arises or event that arises around like health or health issue. It's like, okay, it's like I've kind of been soul searching. There's like a mental, spiritual thing that I'm dealing with, or a long term health thing that I've maybe been dealing with. And now it's time that it's like I might have more information. I might know what to do about this health thing, or that we've achieved some kind of health goal, right? There's something that could be coming up with health routines, or how to care for one's physical body. It just feels like taking of one's health just feels like a priority under this full moon. And like maybe now there's some kind of regimen for you to tackle it, or perhaps you found a doctor, or perhaps you're like, hey, I want to try this new like workout routine. It can be pretty mundane, but the full moon being in the sixth house is just not glamorous. It's work, health. It also could be pets too. It could be something coming up with your pets as well, but definitely kind of focus on there seems to be a focus on the mundane, but the mundane things that are really important to our health and overall vitality and job stuff coming up for you under this full moon. This full moon, excuse me, and then so a couple of days later, February 10th, Venus moves into Pisces. She moves into your first house, and she's going to be there through March 7th. So we do have some eclipse stuff to talk about for you next month, but I'm not going to bring that up right now. so what we're fucking wow. What did I say? Well, we're fucking said while we're talking, and my brain just wants to say the F word today. Um, maybe we will be maybe we will be fucking because Venus is the planet of love, and she's going into your first house. And so February 10th through March 7th. So good time for beautification of self, for rituals involving beauty, for adorning yourself, and in English, that means like, hey, you might be feeling a little, doing things that improve one's aesthetics or beauty really go a long way under this transit. This also you also just might feel more relationship oriented, more like you want to connect to people. It might be a good time to think about connecting with others romantically if that's your inclination, or just to kind of to hang out with friends, or just to be more, uh, uh, just to connect to things that bring more love and pleasure and beauty into your life under this transit. And the Venus is really going to kind of magnify your own kind of like inner god or goddess is kind of, especially like the goddess part, because it is Venus. A good time for changing hair, for your outfit, your clothes, skincare, like, and also just like reaching across the aisle, making friends, connecting to people, and bringing more of this love, beauty, energy into your life. It's a really yummy transit for that. So I hope you do enjoy that part of it, because there's going to be some other stuff along your relationship and self access coming up in later this month and in March that just simply it's a lot more dramatic or a lot more eventful. But Venus and Pisces is going to be really doing a lot of heavy lifting on bringing harmony and bringing beauty. So don't forget, while we're in a lot of this turbulent astrology weather that the world is going to go through and that we're maybe going through, to stop and appreciate life's little luxurious, yummy moments. So that brings us to the end of this week's podcast, of this full moon in Leo. So thanks for hanging with me. If you are wanting to work with me, you can book a session at docsororacle.com. I'm going to be having some like little offerings this month, like little mini readings and stuff. So I'll post about those when I'm ready to release those. But you can always book a psychic medium reading with me, or an astrology reading. But also, if you want to keep up to date on stuff that I'm doing, make sure that you're on my Instagram at Dogstar Oracle. Also, I'm going to have a Facebook at Dogstar Oracle as well. And yeah, so I'll talk to you guys soon. I hope you have a good full moon, and to speak out and use your voice under this full moon, and be safe. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye, y'all.